Hello, welcome to the Evolve Pipedrive podcast. We talk all things Pipedrive, sales, apps, and Pipedrive Marketplace. My name is Bruce Bignell. I'm the sales director here at Evolve. It's my great pleasure today to be welcomed by Sindre Harlan, the CEO and co-founder of SalesScreen. And today he's going to be walking us through the platform and how it integrates with Pipedrive. So, Sindre, over to you.
Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, I'm excited to join the podcast and talk about SalesScreen, of course, but also how it connects to the Pipedrive ecosystem. So, I guess, do you have any natural starting questions for me at this point?
So right now, I probably would say what I know about SalesScreen and gamification of a sales team, right? So how do you define gamification in that sense?
Yeah, good question. So, first, SalesScreen is a sales gamification platform. We in the definitionally speaking, gamification is taking game-like elements and applying it to something that has nothing to do with games. Typically, work in our case, and the purpose behind it is to increase engagement and performance. It's been around for decades, gamification, and it's something that's been there's been a lot of fuss about it, and in science and in theory there's so much written about gamification, and they always point to sales as a natural starting place for gamification application, like where it makes sense to apply this science in order to gain better results.
Yeah. So in terms of the platform, if you can walk us through SalesScreen and how it integrates with Pipedrive. I see you showing your screen there. Um,
Yeah, sure. Happy to show some more of the actual product. I guess just to frame it before I kind of dive into the SalesScreen tool. I think it's important to kind of talk a bit more about the concept that we are built on. So, as I said, gamification is applying these game-like elements. But what game-like elements am I talking about? We're talking about the classical things like the leaderboards, achievements and badges, those types of elements that you see from games applied to top of funnel activities being worked in a sales team. And this is not necessarily new. You've probably seen isolated game elements many places like leaderboard. But if we think about before the digitalization era, what we used to do in the sales floor was to have like a whiteboard that we wrote on when we closed deals. Yeah,
I used to like going up and writing my numbers up on the whiteboard. What?
Now we're talking because like that's and you also did you have the bell or the gong in your time?
So we actually had a James Bond car.
Oh,
Then
okay, there we
you
go.
would click and it would dun, 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 dun.
Exactly. So like now the interesting part, why? Like
Yeah,
why did we have this? Why did it feel so good going up to the whiteboard writing your line or your name?
yeah,
It's actually tied to human psychology and behavioral psychology. And there's reasons why it works. Like one of them is more on a biological level.
mm,
There's actual chemicals being released. For instance, the dopamine chemical. It's the brain's happy chemical. That's something that you get released in your brain in anticipation of receiving a reward. While oxytocin is more like when you work as a team, and you reach goals that releases oxytocin, often called like the love hormone.
mm,
You have the serotonin. All of these chemicals kind of light up our brains, and it makes us feel good. It makes us feel wanted and rewarded for completing tasks and doing our job. So it works on a brain level,
mm,
on a chemical level, but on a psychological level, I think gamification is very closely attached to motivation, and that's also the reasons usually for sales managers and leaders deploying these whiteboards and bells and gongs. It's trying to create an atmosphere where people kind of feel excited and they're motivated to complete their tasks and reach the goals that's been set because they get so much recognition and love from it.
yeah.
So there are there are things happening there. So, where do we come in? I guess, simply put, you could say we kind of like are a visualization platform at its core, and we add gamification or these game like elements to create engagement and increase performance. So, um, in the pipe drive sense of it, that's usually where we want our sales team to be and add all their data points, because if they don't add their meetings, their calls made, and update the opportunities, we won't have the data insights to know on a high level what's going on.
Yeah.
So the more diligent they are in updating and maintaining the data quality in Pipedrive, the better predictions and insights we can get from an executive level. But let's face it, sales teams hate updating their CRM. It's
Yeah.
just it's a time suck from what they feel is important, which is hitting the phones and doing prospecting and
Yeah.
going into meetings. They don't see the value necessarily intuitively for their own goals, which is to hit quota. So it becomes kind of like something that you do in the end of the week or the day, and you kind of like, okay, let's get it in there, and just like the minimum, because if not, they're going to come and hit me with a stick or something.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, managers yell and yell and like, hey, you got to update your CRM. Like, we don't know what's going on. And
Yeah.
that's one of the big problems we kind of solve by gamifying it, that input of data, and making it more fun and exciting.
It's also one of the reasons we as Evolve chose Pipedrive as a CRM, because you don't necessarily need a sales admin to input the data. Everything's timestamped from an activity. Emails are logged against it. Whereas there are other CRM systems out there, but sometimes you need to hire a sales admin, right, to
Yeah.
do exactly what you said. End of the day, you log what you did for the last 6 hours. But that is a time sink.
Yep.
But
But what if we could turn that around and give them a way that they want to input the data,
correct,
like
yeah,
for themselves? Like, that's kind of like where we come in. So when we're talking about the integration with Pipedrive, what we do is simply we gain an authorization. When admins can grant access to the Pipedrive environment and objects and elements, and once that is authorized, we can start to pull in those types of top of funnel activities, like we talked about, the calls, the meeting set, the meeting completed, whatever you've customized your Pipedrive instance to look and feel. But those working activities is being transferred over to SalesScreen, where we will be able to broadcast it for the whole organization, and add these game like elements to make the process of adding those activities fun and exciting. I'm going to show that in the demo shortly.
hmm.
But it also gives you a new level of insight into what's actually going on from an activity point of view. And it makes it very easy to spin up incentives to kind of like plug any gaps that you see in your performance. If we're not booking enough meetings now, we're gonna struggle to hit our pipeline goal, or our sales target for next month. If you identify that early on, you can spin up a competition or do some other types of incentives to actually make sure that people rally and do that now.
Yeah,
And then it's going to help you next month. So
yeah, no, I love it.
so yeah, I mean, obviously on this webcast, demo is usually the way to go, right? So I'm not gonna bore you with more slides. Let's dive into the product. So just to recap, like, the integration with the Pipedrive is fairly simple. It's done from within our platform. So we've integrated with Pipedrive, and we simply need you to authorize us access.
Hmm.
And once we have this, the access to talk to the Pipedrive API for your instance, we automatically create different types of what we call workflow that keeps the data in sync between Pipedrive and SalesScreen in real time. So when somebody completes a call, or that comes into Pipedrive from another system, obviously that is the use case for many that
Yeah,
have dialers, it will also come over to the SalesScreen system. And once it does, you will be able to broadcast that across TV screens and office space. You'll have it in web dashboards if you're working from home, and you can even bring it with you in your phone if you work in the field or outside of the office.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we can start to replicate some of the reasons why we used to have whiteboards, right? So as you can see, you have leaderboards here. It could be like who's the best today, this week, this month. And then you can have your own profile picture, your own nickname. So instead of Matt Payne, it's the Payne Train. We try to make it fun and exciting. That's the point of gamification. If we make the sales work fun and exciting, we're going to do more of it, more top of funnel activities with a conscious visualization and accountability on targets and conversion rates leads to, more sales in the end. So as you can see in this case, there's a ongoing competition in this demo environment, and Brandon's really rocketing up in the atmosphere here. And you can visualize these types of competitions and whose birthday it is, how the team is doing, ongoing battles. There's a lot of different types of templates that you can use to get accountability and excitement in the team. So yeah, that shows on the TV screens.
So from a individual contributor, could you have your own board that you can versus like the management board for their team, right? Because there's
Yeah. So this is, as you say, this is more of a view that you can put up on a TV screen or embed inside, a Microsoft Teams channel, or you can have it somewhere else. And it kind of highlights what's important and what's going on right now, like ongoing competitions and leaderboards that the company cares about. But if you're an individual contributor, you would typically dive in either through our mobile app or inside the web dashboard or the web application. So now I'm showing the web application, and there's multiple different elements here, and I'll go through some of them.
a lot of competitions running.
Yeah, right. This is completed.
Well, that was
actually.
completed. So
Yeah. So again, apologize. This is a generic demo account, so not everything is as shiny as it should be, but you'll kind of get the concept, and I think that's what's important here. So.
yeah.
The way that we structure our data is through something we call activity types. So these can be defined in our system. It could be, sales KPIs and like closed won. And then you might have different fields there. You want to highlight the customer name, the MR, the TCV. If you have two number fields in Pipedrive, we kind of, in the integration work, we map it so that when something is put to closed won or progressed in the pipeline, or you add a task, it also comes over in the SalesScreen platform. Nice. And then you can start to kind of see what's going on. So one of the things that we do is we have like this social feed where people can customize like these feeds. That makes it important or highlight what they want to see. But they can kind of, like in this case, see Enrique from Barcelona. He just registered a new dials, and with that he unlocked certain achievements in the system, and people are in here and giving a thumbs up. They're also adding pictures and gifs. We have a Giphy integration directly here, so it's you can create some fun recognition, and this is like a celebration.
I use Giphy far too much.
Me too. We love Giphy over here at SalesScreen. So, this is it's more like, especially these days when people are trusted to work from home as well. Like, how do you keep them engaged in the company culture? This is a great way to do it. You can quickly feel recognized. Like the moment you put something to close one, it's actually also going to show up on a TV screen in real time. We're going to play your own personal celebration. So inside our system, you're able to have YouTube celebrations. So in the case of Paul Clark here, he's having, I think he's probably, he's a ski fan. That makes sense. Apparently this is Norwegian. He likes to see the Norwegians win at cross-country skiing. So every time Peter closes a deal, that's going to show up in the system, in the web application, on the TVs, and it's going to play his own YouTube celebration so people can see it.
Yeah.
feel it, and go in and congratulate him in the celebration feed. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that.
This creates a cult, or in a way, an atmosphere and a culture of appreciation, and it's very powerful, especially when managers come in and give some direct recognition as well. But by highlighting these achievements that you actually unlocked, what a day, and you completed your daily ARR target, if that's the thing. That makes it so that if you're a very transactional sales company, for instance, and you do multiple deals a week, you might not congratulate them on every deal. Maybe you will, but when they reach their target, if you see that, that's a big milestone, and that
Yeah.
people kind of spur in and give those congratulations. So achievements is a big part of gamification. It's often, for many, is called like a roadmap for success.
Yeah.
It's a great way to kind of tie what they do into a deeper, more emotional type of motivation. So we often kind of split motivation into two. So you have more of the extrinsic motivation, which is like, I go to work to get my paycheck, and then I live my life. Or if I book the next meeting and get an additional $20,
Yeah.
that's an extrinsic motivation. I'm driven by something external. But in the other case, it could be like, hey, um, I'm a top 10 rep in the company this month, or I have a chance to be a top 10 rep. If I actually achieve that, I will get an achievement. Everyone's going to see it on the feed. It's going to stick to my profile page. My manager might even share it in social media, and people will recognize it. So I'm intrinsically motivated. I feel from within, like I really do want to have that achievement, because it gives me so much social capital and
Yeah.
self-esteem in the organization, that, this is something that I'm intrinsically motivated from within to do. Like I'm going to fight for it, not because it's going to give me an added bonus on my paycheck, but because of all that social capital and self-esteem that comes along with it.
Yeah, and the that ties into some of the identity of the person. Do they see themselves as a top 10 candidate? They might not see themselves, but actually some of their activities are so close to be like, we can track. They could be, if they just improve this X, Y, or Z, then they might not. I'm just saying how you raise the level. I think the top performers always look after themselves, right? And I've
Yeah.
seen this a couple of times when I was doing a lot of research on you. You always communicate that the top guys, but this also raises the level of the team, right? So how can you raise the level of the team? And I think, um,
I think
yeah,
that's a
the
very
achievements.
important point. Like
Yeah,
the top performers of any company is always going to be the top performers.
yeah,
They are so intrinsically motivated. They have many reasons from within to do what they're doing, and they will constantly come out at top. You're not buying a motivational tool like a gamification platform really to elevate them.
no,
You're buying it to elevate your core performers, the bottom performers, the middle performers. If you can get them to get to at least a level where they're getting close to target, or
yeah,
preferably at target.
yeah,
If you get many enough of the core performers to do one or two sales more, that's going to really move the needle for the company.
yeah,
So how do you do that? Well, this is one of the ways you can do it. You can set up these achievements so that when somebody has their biggest sale ever, it might not be the biggest sale in the company because of these top performers, you're crazy good, but it's your biggest sale. Let's create
yeah,
an achievement around it. Let's make it very visible in an organization, so that people notice and they congratulate you and they cheer you and they back you up. And it gives the managers an ability to share this certificate of and in an all hand PowerPoint session, or even on
nice, yeah,
LinkedIn, and like amplify the meaning of having the highest value sale in your team ever, or something like that. So taking these achievements, creating a roadmap of great things, like what we often say is like gamification. You have some business objectives that you want to do, like create a lot of pipeline or close more deals, and then we break that into like a funnel of activities. So in order to create more pipeline, what do you need to do? Well, you need to um, prospect more. You need to add more contacts, more accounts. You need to create more dials, and then get more discovery calls and get more SQLs in the end.
Hmm.
So what do we gamify? Well, obviously we want the end goal of those opportunities created, but we gamify the top of funnel activity and make sure that they have a consistent activity level. So one of my favorite things to do here is like you can create a combined achievement. Let's say, 50 calls today, that could be a badge. So every day, if you add 50 calls to pipe drive, the moment you get 50, this is going to unlock. But if you do it day number 2, you're starting to build a streak.
It's all about the streak. Was it
It
Jerry
is.
Seinfeld? Jerry Seinfeld was like, it's all about the streak. Just
I think.
yeah.
Do you know why? It's kind of
So
funny,
it was
but it works.
yeah, it was consistency. He would always, whatever the joke was, he was like, "Don't." I think it was an X or a circle he put on his calendar every day. He's
Yeah.
like, I don't break the chain, don't break the streak, and that consistency leads to great things, basically.
It does. So in the case of like defining, let's say you want 50 dials a day or 100 dials a day, in our system, then you can start to build up that streak. So once you've unlocked it on Monday and Tuesday, you're in a 2-day streak. If you continue and do it for the full week, you're in a 5-day streak. If you do it on Saturday and Sunday, which is marked as not a working day, you boost the streak, but you don't have to.
Hmm.
Because you can continue on the next Monday and be on a streak of 6 and 7. But what happens when you start to build this longer and longer streak is that you're going to feel loss aversion. You're going to feel afraid of losing that streak that you've invested in and that people can see, and it shows up in the feed. And you're afraid to lose it. You feel a big loss aversion. That's just why teenagers send messages back and forth on Snapchat like 1,000 days in a row. They don't want to lose that. They invest in so much in it. Now we're transforming that in this game element of streaks into the business of sales. So yeah, if we get people to add their calls and tasks inside Pipedrive consistently, they're going to get these achievements and they're going to be on a streak and they're going to feel intrinsically motivated to continue to build that streak because, it's being seen in the organization and gives them this social capital and self-esteem. So we're talking about like psychology here.
Yeah, I
That's
was
just
actually.
one element.
This might be for another time, another conversation, but the intrinsic identity that this brings out, can this impact hiring decisions? So, from a sales manager's the types of questions that you might ask your resource department, at a large firm, if people aren't intrinsically motivated or if they're only extrinsically motivated, that will only get you so far, right? So yeah, I was just wondering if you knew of anything.
I mean, it's more like it's our jobs as leaders to figure out what motivates people. And I'm not saying, money is bad either. There's tons of people who comes to work and put in real work and effort
Yeah,
because they are driven by the money or the
yeah.
bonus. And they will keep that consistent level of activity high. All research show that, if you're self-determined, there's actually something called self-determination theory, and
Yeah.
that's often referenced when explaining why gamification works. Like if people are self-determined, that's going to be more emotional, it's going to be more sustainable, they can do it more over time. So we prefer that, but we don't want to ignore the ones who are extrinsically motivated. For instance, cleaning up your CRM is like a uh, annoying task. It's not going to help you reach your goal, sales goal, or your pipeline goal, but it needs to be done. But you don't see any reasons from within why that is important. That would be a perfect badge to add, coins to, so you can start to accumulate like a virtual currency in your wallet that ultimately is going to drive you to be able to unlock rewards that you really want. It could be, pizza for the team or a
Mm-hmm.
GoPro. It could also be something that doesn't necessarily cost the company money, but it'd be like, an added day off or give someone else push-ups on your next all hands session. So they can kind of get they now have an extrinsic reason to have a perfectly clean CRM. And once they unlock that every week, they get 500 coins, and that will accelerate them towards the rewards that they are saving up for. So it's nothing wrong with it. It's just like people are motivated differently. Some really wants that attention that comes along with the YouTube celebration. Others want to hide that away, and they can
Yes.
do that. That's fine. Some people want to see their name on top of the leaderboard. Other people, they want to have anonymous nickname, and they're still going to be there, and they're going to be now conscious about how they're performing compared to the rest of the team, which is important for them. But they don't necessarily want the accolades that goes with it. Like, people are motivated differently, and we have so many ways to kind of tap into that level of motivation. So I think competitions is like one of the reasons that many clients buy us, and
Hmm.
a brilliant use case for any sales team out there. Like, tell me, how have you been a part of a sales competition before?
Uh, Not using a system like this, no. But
No, but like in general.
yeah, for the created beer or the yeah, an extra day off or whatever else, we certainly had that.
What did you compete on? Was it like, who could get the most meetings, or like
I think it
close
was
one, or
this was a while ago now. So this was it wasn't the volume; it was the amount of sales.
yeah.
Um, that Sorry, yeah, it wasn't the volume; it was the as a revenue target. Could we, get over 100,000 per month or whatever else? Um,
Okay, so
yeah,
it was kind of like a percentage attainment towards the target, but it was
so
still just a leaderboard type of competition, right? It was like whoever could get the best
because it
attainment, or like,
we couldn't actually do something like this because there are some accounts that always had more.
yep,
Um, so it's always kind of rigged to a few of the people that had the larger accounts versus
yeah.
if you actually wanted to be, you might have separated those accounts and said, actually, what does it mean if the people that are running smaller accounts actually doubled their input and then I don't know. It's so as a revenue target, it was a pretty bad measure
Mhm.
because the larger accounts were always going to win it, and the smaller accounts would. So we could never actually recognize good performance in the more junior salespeople, for example. Um,
Yeah, interesting, right? Do you
mm.
think this is unique, or do you think it's like a common
No,
problem or
I think
challenge?
that is pretty common.
Yeah, it is. So the thing is, like, I don't know a single salesperson or manager or VP or above who hasn't seen or been a part of or set up a competition. It's a natural thing because in sales we're competitive by nature, and we all know instinctually, like, it works. The moment you set up a competition, you create a level of attention and excitement around a typical behavior,
Mm.
and people rally behind that, and they give an added effort. And in our numbers, we run tens of thousands of competitions. We see this average increase in whatever. It doesn't matter what a KPI you set it on.
Yeah.
That increase, you're probably going to double up. So if you have a competition on a week, you're going to see 2x the effort that week you're running a competition versus the one that you didn't.
Yeah.
But if you always run types of, let's say, unfair competitions like that one you just mentioned, it's going to motivate the ones with the biggest accounts.
Yeah.
And then you give the prize to the top three, and people are going to be like, this is pointless. I'm never
Which
going to
which
win.
isn't a bad thing for the business because from the business standpoint, those accounts do make the most money. So if revenue
Yeah,
first is the metric, that's fine.
it's still going to work. You're
But
right.
however, from the team standpoint, how do you either
You're leaving money
recognize?
on the table. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Like, when setting up successful competition that increase the result compared to the time frame before, you need to change it up, and you need to level the playing field. So now inside our platform, there's a ton of ways you can set up competitions on. So the standard one, which is like a leaderboard type of competition, whoever does the most styles or meetings, or maybe even start to be a bit more creative and have a point system. Dials is 1, meeting set is 10, sale is 20 points. So there's multiple ways you can earn. It's still a leaderboard. It's a
Is
great
that
way
another
to
skiing?
incentivize.
Is that another ski?
The sales screen originally was created in Norway, so and it was one of the first things that we just had to create.
Yeah, I like it.
Now we're good at running as well, so we have that too. There's different layouts,
Yeah.
And some of them are fun, some of them are more, you can have your own look and feel as a corporate. But my point is, like, there's a couple of things here to make this more interesting. One, you're gonna have to have some of these types of competitions because it does motivate the top performers. That's great. You need to do that. You need to make people feel that they can reach the top at some point. You could add a target, as you said. With your higher accounts, you compete on attainment instead. So the ones with the bigger accounts have a bigger number that they have to meet, and the juniors have a lower one.
Yeah.
So kind of even out the playing field. Sometimes I would argue you should, instead of running individual competition, team them up. Maybe team 2 and 2 people up, a junior and a senior. So you can create a custom team, or use the teams that you're inside the account, maybe even in parallel, because the team competition then makes people feel like they're pushing for the team, and that releases oxytocin. While the individual ones, and you're seeing that you're on track to receiving prizes, is going to give you endorphin releases and push you more on the individual level. But the prices, like, that is also a pain point. Like, what should we give them as prices? Should we give them money? Should we give them wine? What if somebody that doesn't like red wine wins that very expensive Barolo?
Yeah.
Like, that's pointless. So that's why we created this virtual currency inside the platform, the coins. You can use this without our platform too, like this concept of a currency. And then it's much easier to tier drop it. Meaning, take Formula One. It's also kind of like a leaderboard in the end, but you get points depending on where you land.
Yeah.
So, it matters to go from 7th to 6th place because you get some more coins, and then you will quicker get to the point where you can redeem that into a reward that you want. So now, instead of having a competition that only incentivizes top performers by having so many prizes, more of the middle performers is going to be motivated because suddenly they are able to win if they just get to 7th or 8th or 9th place.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to kind of get more people rally behind it. It's not like, oh, I set up this competition and I already know Bruce is going to win, so it's like, why should I care? Then I drop off. But my favorite way to get the middle performers to really do more is to introduce an element of chance. So, let's do a lottery instead. Every meeting you book, you get a lottery ticket. If you close a deal, you get 5. In this case, if I just get one meeting, everyone can get one meeting. I'm going to get a ticket, and I can win the grand prize if I'm lucky. So that is going to push me. And as a top performer, I'm also going to recognize I'm going to do the most.
Yeah.
And I have a much higher probability of winning. So I'm still motivated and feeling, incentives to push onwards. But this can create that situation where you kind of like tell the organization, like, just do something, and you have the chance to win. And people who's usually never motivated by competition because they have no chance now start to dig deep.
Yeah.
And dive in. So adding these different types of game mechanics to your competition and doing it in a structured way like you can do in our platform, they're so simple to set these type of competitions up. It takes you like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That really becomes a powerful tool to ramp the activity level up. And we have different types of competitions you can run. You could have like a pirate chest competition. Let's say, every time you book a meeting, you can open a new chest. If all the chests are open, next time you book a meeting, you can decide like, hey, I really want that smart TV that Connie has. I'm going to try to trade my dinner for 2 towards that smart TV. Yeah. And it's the manager who decides the likelihood of succeeding. So let's say it's 50%. It's a 50-50 chance. There's an animation playing, you're going to be excited. And if I succeed, we swap. And kind of swap back and forth like the white elephant game.
Yeah.
And until time runs out. So it's, it has nothing to do with a leaderboard. but it's a great competition, and it's actually inspired from one that I remember. It's like 7 years ago. I saw this in a call center environment where they had like envelopes up on the wall, and every time somebody made a sale, they could go and pick one of the envelopes on the wall, and it could be like $1 in it. It could be $1,000. They
Yeah.
they didn't know, but it was super exciting for them because they knew they could be lucky and get the grand prize. So it
And
doesn't have to be a
and did
system, but
they
it's smart.
physically have to pick it up themselves as well? There's probably a bit of that.
Yeah, there's a bit of that, that because that is going to give you social capital. People are going to
Yeah.
look at you when you pick it. But it's hard to do if you're working from home, like with the new normal. So having these platforms kind of bring that same level of excitement back into the game.
Okay.
So yeah,
So we've touched upon the feed dashboard competitions.
yeah.
What about the reports and the coaching?
So you know, I'm going to touch upon the coaching for sure,
Mm.
but before I kind of bridge over more in that, I just want to show one last example of
Hmm.
the great use case of the coins, because the managers might not always set up those competitions, and you're competitive by nature. Inside Sales Screen, you can actually challenge each other to head-on-head battles, so
So
you can
okay,
decide your
so
own
say that
rules.
again. So this is not the management setting this up. This is
Exactly.
the Sally and Jason
Hmm.
are going to have a no, no. I'm going to beat you this month. Or okay,
Yeah.
nice.
So you challenge, Joel.
Jewel.
Let's say first one to do 10 meetings, or whoever's gonna gross the most dollars by the end of this week, and you can even bet your coins, so you can have some
Okay.
real skin in the game. And that's a great thing because like
Yeah.
suddenly people start to motivate themselves, and it's shown for everyone. It's gonna be
I
visible
was
how
going to
you're
say, can the
doing,
rest
or
of the
yeah.
team see who you're battling?
Well, actually, you can decide. So you can
Okay.
either, when you invite someone for a battle, you can say, I want this to be a private battle just between
Mm.
us, or I want it to be a public one where people can actually see it up on the big screen
Yeah,
and
I
in the
like that.
feed and stuff. Yeah, but yeah, the coaching aspect that's one of our recent modules. Actually, well, recent to recent. I guess we've had it now for more than a year, but the point was that we made so many things inside our tool that made people do more, top of funnel activities. But at some point, you can't. You kind of need to slow down and focus on the conversion rates.
Mm.
So when you reach 200 dials a day, like how big of an impact is it if you get 250? Like there's a limit. And so yes, performance increase like in volume is important, but you also need to have the skill to actually make good phone calls that converts into meetings.
Yeah.
And then uh, the best way to kind of develop skills is through one-on-one coaching. So we saw that now we start to have all of these performance metrics, and the targets are set inside the platform, and data-driven coaching was on the rise. And by that I mean, I think most of the time there's always going to happen one-on-one conversations between a rep and their manager, but it's most likely going to be unstructured. It's not going to be around their performance metrics and how they benchmark in the organization, or if they improved over time, or like if they're making any big achievements. Like it's going to be like, hey, what's up, Bruce? What are we going to do today, and what are we going to talk about? Like the floor
Yeah.
is yours. What we say is that you should instead structure a coaching program that makes it simple for the managers to create one-on-one sessions where all your talking points is going to be pulled into the session. You're going to have a consistent view of your performance this week, for instance, and you can quickly go check the last week. You can assign tasks. You can um, on you or the rep. They can rate their previous week or answer any like predetermined questions that you set up in the programs, and you can start to get high level insights and stats on those types of coaching programs and what people are are asking and answering in preliminary sessions, and how are these are they completing their tasks in time? Are they um, how's the session rated? You start to get a much better insight into um, what the managers are coaching the reps on, and you
Mm.
can direct and guide them to coach them on the right types of behaviors through those the template that you set up for them. And it gives them a platform where you have all the data points automatically pulled in, your scorecard, your target progression, how you perform against a team. So you don't spend time finding what people are doing or how they're doing. You spend the time on actually developing new skills and creating new tasks, and what we're going to focus on next week, and how we're going to elevate this to the next level. So coach notes, coachee notes, shared notes, all of those one-on-one conversations are now around data, and it's structured in a way that makes it easy for people to improve, and you can see that in the results here too.
Where did that come from? Was that always part of the plan, or did that come from the clients that said, actually, this gamification is working super well, but I really want to. How can I help my team out? Or is that was it always part of the because it's not gamification, right? What you're now doing is back to the business. How
Hmm.
can we, to your point, there reaches a level of we've got to this certain stage where let's make two assumptions now. This is not all salespeople, but salespeople are lazy and they'll find a way to gamify reach any target you give them. So if it's 75 dials a day, we've all heard of the story where the salesperson is just calling so and so for 3 minutes, and it's a false dial, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that they would last at any business, but so the gamification gets us somewhere, and it certainly elevates revenue targets and elevates revenue to the business. But was coaching always part of the roadmap? Because it's a really interesting um, uh, introduction, I think.
No, it wasn't necessarily always a part of the roadmap. It was something that came intuitively because actually clients were talking about us as a coaching tool,
Okay.
and that they developed like coaching programs around Sales Screen, because they could so easily spot how people were performing and where they needed to improve. So you can see like Matt in this case, who's the top performer, is doing well, but Rosa or Carmen needs to get more meetings booked
Hmm.
to elevate, and then people use the data insights of our tool to structure the one-on-one conversations they had with individuals. And like Carmen, we're looking at your scorecard, and you probably need some help,
Hmm.
getting prospecting together and more meetings.
Is that meetings
Uh,
booked number, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it could be whatever. It's very flexible software. Everything can be customized. But the point was that the people started to build coaching sessions around the data points that we had in our tool, and they did it in like HR tools,
Yeah.
or like even worse, in Google Docs or spreadsheets or
Yeah.
something like that. So we were like, okay, we started to research like coaching as a topic, and we saw that coaching was always something that improved the performance of revenue teams. Like it was widely adopted in sales. I had a huge coaching partners out there that does this as for a living. But they also found that data driven coaching was much better. So it wasn't only like, hey, what's your main challenges and what keeps you up at night type of conversation anymore. It was like, these are your metrics. This is how you benchmark towards the team. This is where you need to improve. Let's talk about how we can improve that.
Mm.
So those conversations became much better, and we had the data. So why not just help the managers structure their talk tracks better? And we did that. So we created a brand new module that now kind of like was much. I would say it makes more sense to do the coaching inside a sales tool instead of
Yeah.
an HR tool, where the data already is, and it was an easy addition for us that created so much more value for our
Yeah.
customers. So it was just like a no brainer.
Yeah, I like it. Is
But
there
yeah,
anything else you want to run through just before we wrap this up? Is there anything you want to?
no, there's tons to this platform. It's very customizable. It can be connected to Pipedrive in a matter of seconds. You just authorize, log in with your Pipedrive account,
Yeah,
give us access, and that's pretty much it. And from there, the CS team on our end is going to help build up an environment with good achievements and define the scorecards and dashboards and help you set up a competition plan of what types of competition you should run to have maximum impact and so forth, so on. So it's like we've shown you a demo environment that could be very different for your organization depending on what industry you're in.
yeah,
If you're, it's not like we're only working with contact centers or call centers. Like
yeah,
our biggest industries are like software, insurance, banks, and financial institution, and real estate.
yeah,
So as long as you're in Pipedrive, there's going to be value by gamifying it. You're going to see an increased performance. You're going to see an increased adoption of Pipedrive, and you're going to see people more appreciated of each other and endorsing each other and creating a culture of recognition and excitement, which is very, very important these days, especially when we're working from home and we have the great resignation and the great reshuffle. So, I encourage you, if you have Pipedrive, reach out and have a talk with us and see if there's a match. If you're more than 20 people in your organization, there's going to be a big impact from SalesGreen. And if you're a very small organization, maybe it's not necessary. But the moment your team starts to grow, you're going to reach a level where you're not in the know of all of their personal achievements happening all the time
yeah.
around you. So,
And to your point in the very beginning, and to keep them motivated, to keep them um, when those teams do start growing.
yeah,
Small teams have a real knack of motivating themselves. 5, 6, 7, 8. But then as you start building people that haven't been there for 2 to 3 years, with new people coming in, how do you really keep everyone going? And I think a platform like this is brilliant. So thank you very much for taking me through that today, Sindra. And we'll be sure to have any links in the description below to get your own personal demo and to find it on the Pipedrive Marketplace. But once again, thanks so much, Sindra. And for all the listeners, thank you.